evening, viewers, and welcome to the Personal Injury Law Show. This show that talks about everything current in the law of personal injuries and obviously of importance to you, the viewer. My name's Tony Carbone. I'm a personal injury lawyer with 30 years' experience. With me today, I've got Don Maffia, a partner in the law firm in transport accidents. Good evening, Don.
Good evening, Tony. Good evening, viewers.
And also a former lawyer and superstar media extraordinaire, Vivienne Ryan from Gravia Media. Good evening, Vivienne.
Good evening, Tony. Don. Good evening, viewers.
Viewers, tonight, because we've had so many interesting and topical stories in the media, we've decided to give you a whole episode on these stories. And to start us off, I'd like to just start by saying our roads are an absolute disaster.
They are a disaster, Tony. They're Why are they a disaster, though?
In the last month, I've been caught up on the Balti Bridge, the Tullamarine Freeway, the Westgate Freeway. Every road I've taken, there's been diversions or I've had to stop and turn back. It's just amazing.
Are you
and
okay?
The amount of road rage is just extraordinary. People are so impatient.
So Tony, I'm guessing you were stuck in traffic this morning or before the
Definitely,
show.
definitely. Viewers, I'm even lucky to be doing this show today because the Burnley Tunnel was closed again. Someone's lost their load.
I'm sure fellow Victorians can really empathise, and particularly Punt Road is the bane of most Victorians' existence, or particularly Melbourne metropolitan users. So we feel your pain.
And Don, it's not as if we got a really good system of public user transport, have we?
Well, it's a current issue in the politicians at the moment, talking about the East-West Link Tunnel, which was abolished, and talk about other alternatives as to getting the traffic flowing. So, Tony, it's an issue that's not going to go away, and the governments are using it as sort of a campaign as to get them into power. So
I'm amazed they abandoned that East-West link, Viv. It's just extraordinary, seriously.
What's extraordinary is the population's set to increase by
100,000 at least a year, if not more.
And Victoria's going to be the most densely populated city or state in the country, so we certainly need to be looking at something more than a fabulous city grid, and also really exploring opportunities for for public transport as well, which we know has been diabolical as well with that Mikey system.
Well, the worst part about it is this, that not only have you got people not getting to work on time or missing appointments or flights or whatever else you want to call it, but you've also got this road rage on the roads now because people are so impatient. They get stuck in this traffic, they have to divert and turn back and whatever else. And because of that, you've got these people on the road that are so impatient. And this is a story about this fellow who ran into his car and killed this young child. Do you want to tell us about it, Don?
yeah, so there's a road rage incident. So this driver, for whatever reason, had road rage, and he overtook a car who had a family. There was a lady with 4 children in the car, and he jumped in front of that car, braked heavily, which caused the mother to brake heavily, which then in turn caused a truck to hit from behind. But the sad thing about all this is that her 10-year-old son was killed in this accident.
Viv, as a mother, right, you got young kids. I mean, something like this, what would you expect to happen with this fellow? I mean, should be jailed
For life, absolutely. It's horrendous. It is the worst possible case of road rage. Not only did he come out when the actual incident happened, he didn't even help the mother and her child at this point either. And he's also got a history of road rage over the last in previous years. So it's horrendous, not just as a mother, as a human. But, you know, at the same time, and I think it calls to question all drivers to sit and stop and think about, you know, what their actions are on the road. You are actually driving a weapon. And one of the statements that she had claimed in court was, what would have happened if he just waited 2 minutes that afternoon? What difference would it have made to his day if he just waited a further 2 more minutes? So I think that's the message to take home for everyone, mothers and young drivers as well, that, you know, this is the thing that can happen. It can change a life forever.
The judge in this case, Don, said that this fellow had a history of cutting off drivers, kicking and punching the driver's car, tailgated a car, threatened its occupants. He's got a propensity for ill-found anger. I mean, what do you do with something?
Well, he should be taken off the road.
Yeah.
He should be absolutely taken off the road.
This is murder on the roads, Tony. And the worst thing is, he tried to blame the mother for her driving.
Yep,
But it was him. And look, he got 8 years, which I think it's just despicable. I mean, that is murder.
Yeah,
it's
it
culpable
is.
driving. To get 8 years with a prior history. And in the end, he said he was remorseful, but he was only remorseful after he got convicted by a jury. And
he said that
blame other ones.
He said that he's got to go to jail, though. That's
Yeah,
the
well,
reality
that's
of
it.
Yeah.
That's
And
it.
I think the lesson is for all of us. I mean, I think we all experience some element of rage on the roads. I mean, this evening you've come in and a little bit concerned with what's happened, on your journey in today. And I think ultimately everyone needs to be aware that you do need to stop and be a bit more patient. And in Ireland, what they do is they actually signal you to when you can take over, and you can pass them over, and then they signal their hazards to say thank you. I mean, wouldn't that be nice to have more of a kinder
Well,
society?
just put up your hand and say thank you
Yeah,
when they
well,
let you in.
that's- yeah,
Instead of
absolutely.
trying to block you off so you can't get in. I mean,
It
that
is.
happens quite a
I
bit,
think it's
yeah.
the worst in the world.
Anyway, we'll keep moving. Viv, cheat debt bomb. There's $870 million they're chasing from welfare scammers, and I find it extraordinary. The majority of these people are very senior people. There's a 93-year-old, an 87-year-old, people in their 80s
Yep.
that are cheating the system. They've got more than one name, Don, and they've got different addresses. What's going on here, Viv?
Yeah, well, there's $870 million worth of welfare debt that has been racked up fraudulently. So people who are widows, for example, have assumed multiple names and have accumulated in excess of $250,000 worth of payments to them that they should never have received. So, I think it's been happening for a long, long time. We're all aware of people who have been cheating the system. I think the thing that this calls and identifies for the country is that there's been a change in the legislation whereby people can no longer be once they're found out, they can no longer actually avoid payments. So
And
I think
avoid prosecution.
that's
too.
correct, and
Yeah.
avoid. Actually, they're not allowed to have. They're not a flight. They can't actually leave the country anymore as well. So I think there was a lift of the last 6 years. So if they've been found, then in the last 6 years they still have to pay back the money
And
owing
Don,
to the country.
They're going to start charging 9% interest on the money outstanding as well.
Well, here's the thing, Tony. I mean, there has been little effort by the government, and this is the federal government, to recover that money.
Yep.
So it's $870 million that could potentially be recovered, whether in full or not, that they can reinvest in infrastructure, what they might give to the states to use to fix up their roads.
So would you advocate them selling these people's homes, perhaps?
Well, Tony, it's fraud. So, I mean...
But what do you do
you're
for a
frauding the
93-year-old, an
government.
87-year-old, a 71-year-old?
Oh, I appreciate that.
There's 1% of all Australians have actually appropriated welfare funds. So
That's a lot. I mean, Tony, at the end of the day, it's fraud. They're taking the money when they're not entitled to it.
Yep.
Pay it back.
yeah.
We've got to go to a break shortly, but before the break, I just want to entice the viewers on this one. There's a 26-year-old ice queen, Jessica Fogarty. Her story is absolutely extraordinary. Stay tuned for that, viewers. Viewers, welcome back to the show. Before the break, we started this story of the Ice Queen, who goes by the alias of Princess Devil Woman, Viv. And she's pleaded guilty in a county court to commercial trafficking of the drug ice, trafficking cocaine, handling stolen goods, burglary, theft, and dealing with the proceeds of crime. Gee, she's got a lot to really answer for, this lady, hasn't she?
She certainly has.
Tell us a bit more about it, Viv.
Well, she's only 26 years old. She's the mother of one, I believe, and now she's been sentenced to prison for 7 years. So she's been running a very, very successful drug syndicate over the last years, over the last few years. So I think she just really, I'm glad that she's been held accountable, because this ice epidemic in this country is unbelievable. I think we are the #1 country of ecstasy users in the world. And earlier in this show we were talking about road rage. I do believe that the introduction of drugs has certainly added to the sorts of things we're seeing on the roads. Ambulance drivers are at risk now more than ever. Our medical staff are at risk in the emergency wards. I mean, this woman is not just a standalone woman, and we're talking about people who are just having a good time with drugs. We're talking about all of the other flow-on effects that the use of drugs in this country actually contributes to.
Don, one of the mitigating factors that her lawyer put to the judge was that she turned to dealing after becoming a drug addict to cope with a former abusive partner and back injury.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
So that's I mean, we talk about the ice users, of course, and the drug users. So the background story of this is that she got introduced to drugs through an abusive relationship with her partner. So look, in the background story, it is a sad story. I mean, to get into that, she had the back injury and all that. But then to go on and start dealing, she's worth millions of dollars apparently. I mean, then that there, you got to say, well, look, where's the stop? I mean, we understand the background story, but at the end of the day, she's affected thousands of people. And like Viv said, it goes beyond just the drug users. If on the road, it can lead to death by accidents and all that. But even ice users being very aggressive. And we hear stories coming out where they're aggressive and they're assaulting people and even leads to murder.
Hospital wards, ambulances, right across the board.
Just like that. So, look, I think it's great that got onto us so quickly, but then I don't think this is the end of it, of course.
Josh, she's one of many.
It just leaves an opportunity for someone else and someone else. And I think...
37 years, sending a message that we're going to punish you, I mean, is it enough when you think about it?
I don't know the answer to that question.
She's only 26,
She's
but
young.
she was, you're talking... She owed $5 to $10 million in drug debt, so you can imagine the turnover she had. It was huge.
Well, I think that's right, Tony. And I think arresting these people ain't going to solve the issue with this drug use. It's got to be something.
You've got to send a message. I mean, you should have given it 15 years, I would have thought, wouldn't you?
But Tony, it's going to continue. She'll go in jail and there'll be someone else who picks it up.
I just think about...
Just arresting is not going to solve it. And I think if we look at the history of all the drugs, I mean, alcohol, when alcohol was banned many moons ago, then it opened a black market for alcohol. They legalised. I'm not saying drugs should be legalised. I'm still, two arguments that side. But once the alcohol was banned as black market, once it was legalised, it cut out all the illegal activity.
And everyone started drinking.
Everyone started drinking, but now they're getting back in education, and there is so much support going through these people addicted to that type of alcohol and cigarettes as well. So look, it's an area that's not going to solve quickly. Many debates have gone on about it. I think, yes, arresting is one way to get around it.
Might have to start looking at those rooms, injection rooms. Well, that's what they do overseas. But look, we should really take it up with someone that knows a bit more about it to see what the approach should be. But anyway, we'll keep moving. What about these supplements that our kids and everyone going to the gym seems to be taking? They're causing all sorts of problems. There's liver transplants, there's kidney transplants, there's problems with lungs, pancreas, heart. It's just extraordinary.
But I think that the morals of this story is you don't actually know what's been regulated and what's contained. And actually, as I was taking this whey protein powder, I know whey is whey, but you don't actually know what's contained in this. And these kids are not just kids, adults as well, are taking things thinking that it's actually helping their health and vitality. But lo and behold, we actually don't really know what it's doing.
Do you know what I find extraordinary, Dom? This one fellow who had a liver transplant, the doctors said the most likely culprit for his illness was a multivitamin which contained bark extract and green tea. Green tea? Mate, they advocate that is good for your stomach.
Look, I'll tell you one of the reasons why I don't take these supplements is because you go to the chemist and there's just walls and walls of these supplements and different extracts from these leaves or that leaves. So overwhelming, so it's got to walk out. But Tony, it's got to be regulated. I mean, there is some links from doctors saying that these multivitamins can lead to liver failure. You're taking something thinking it's helping you, but it's causing more damage.
Well, having said that, I just started taking glucosamine and also fish oil tablets.
Great.
It's helped my knees.
Yeah, but that's regulated. I mean, we kind of know what's in fish oil tablets, don't we?
I think... Oh, no, what sort of fish? Who knows?
But I think the message to take away from
I
this...
smell like fish.
Yeah, that's why I don't take them. Is to really make sure you know the manufacturers of these supplements. And there's a lot of international websites now that you can actually purchase all sorts of things from, and just be mindful of that, because you don't know what effect it's going to have on your health, and the last thing you want to do is actually die from taking supplements.
And what about this bark extract? That's unbelievable. You can see it being toxic already, can't you? Extraordinary. All right, just leading on from that story, this Western Australian former soldier taking anti-malaria drugs, and he said he's had brain damage from it, Tom.
So he's part of the army, so he was given a choice of taking an anti-malaria drug. One was already tested, it's been around for a while, or a new one. The advantage of taking the new one was that you only took it once, whereas the older one you had to take weekly injections or whatnot. So he went for the newer drug, which is a drug trial, and he's come out with all these side effects and brain damage, and he's been psychologically affected, he can't hold a job, he's been left the army. I mean, he has some serious consequences as a result of these anti-malaria, or so he alleges.
Mefloquine?
Is it?
Yes. So, I mean, some of the side effects he said is it's caused anxiety, paranoia,
vertigo,
depression, and psychotic behaviour.
And suicidal thoughts.
Yeah, which is really scary. So, these are the people that are out arguably defending our country or in training, and he really loved being with the army. So I think, if you have been exposed to that particular drug, certainly consult a doctor.
Well, does that mean that you give them the drug and you don't follow them up to see how you go? You just say, pop these pills?
Possibly. The problem here, Tony, look, obviously if they can link the drug to his current condition, and obviously he has a suit against the Defence Force.
Well, it
problem
sounds
they
like
have
it's
in
gonna go
this
down that
case
path.
that there is no medical diagnosis that links his anti-malaria drug to his symptoms of current condition. And the problem with that is that I think it's coincidental that he has this drug which has a side effects which he's suffering from, but yet there is no firm medical diagnosis.
Yeah,
so
but
that's
on-
his problem.
but
And that's what's going on. There's an inquiry into it.
But on a balance of probabilities, and also if you look at the proximity of it, it sounds like after he started taking these drugs, that all these symptoms have sort of manifested themselves.
Yeah,
So I would have thought that you'd probably be able to argue and win that case.
Correct.
Anyway, Don, you're starting to take on the criminal test of beyond reasonable
Well,
doubt.
no, I mean, it's on a balance of probabilities,
yeah.
but I think once you firm up the medical diagnosis, his chances are much better. So at the moment, it's just coincidental, but
Unless
doctors
other
are going
people
there.
come forward and they can
Correct.
potentially form a class action, and then it's
Well,
unquestionable.
they wouldn't
as to
know
the
the
length.
long-term effects of it because that was the whole point of it, was a drug trial.
Anyway, we've got to go to a sponsors break. After the break, viewers, we're going to ask you whether it is appropriate that people can top up their accounts at
Betting
your local
accounts.
supermarket for punting.
Yes, betting accounts.
Stay tuned. Viewers, welcome back to the show. It's extraordinary in this day and age that you go to your supermarket to buy groceries and milk and cornflakes and everything else, and guess what else? You can top up your TAB account and
Potentially.
sports bet account.
No, there's discussion around it.
Oh, it's going to happen, Viv. It's not-
Woolies and
yeah.
7-Eleven are denying it, but our friends, our gambling friends,
So we've
are
got
pushing for it.
We've got an epidemic with drugs, alcohol,
Yep.
bad drivers, gambling, and what are we doing? We're making it easier for them.
Oh, it's a wonderful society we live in.
Is it,
Yeah.
is it going to change anything? I mean, you just go on your phones and top up your account.
Well, that's
Yeah,
right.
but everyone's got a
So you
Woolworths
don't
around
even
the
go to
corner,
shop
Don.
it. Yeah, and everyone's got a phone. So, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's just another in-your-face sort of thing to remind you to top up and gamble.
I don't think it's appropriate,
but-
quite frankly. I think that Woolworths are doing well enough without the gambling,
Agreed.
and it's not appropriate that they should be
Encouraging.
encouraging people to gamble.
No, but
Because you've
look,
got
years
kids.
ago- but
Kids are going there, Don.
Years ago, we go to different gambling, there were Tuts Lotto shops and the little scratchy cards that you can go. It used to be everywhere. I mean, these
that was-
days a bit slower, but
But this is a 24-hour day thing these days, Don.
A little $2 scratchy, there's a finite amount that you're expending on that.
Well,
with,
if
with these betting accounts, it's just constant. It's
Hey, Don, I bet you'll change your tune when you go to Woolworths and with your kids, and then you'll find your son going up there trying to top up his TAB account. What do you reckon, Viv?
It's really scary, but let's move on.
Yeah,
Let's hope it doesn't
anyway.
happen.
Pain hits a family pocket, Viv. Medibank Private has just made a $470 million profit because now it is public and there's shareholders involved and they want a return.
course.
And guess what? The government's allowed them to increase their premiums, Viv.
What I find incredibly
Is that amazing?
What I find incredibly exciting, and that's said with a lot of sarcasm, is that since 2002, there's been a 142% increase to private health insurance. So, what is that? What is that saying about this system? And number two, as a family member, as a mother of children, the extras component, which we hardly even use. I mean, the recommendation is to remove that completely, but it's almost about removing the whole private health because we still pay for Medicare anyway. So,
Or the alternative
there's
should be
a-
if you've got your own private insurance, why should you have to pay the Medicare levy?
Well,
Because I mean, you pay
there's
the
a
Medicare
double-edged
levy of
sword.
1.5, you
It's
pay,
reduced.
I reckon I'm spending 30 grand a year on all this medical stuff.
Yeah. Look, it's double-edged sword. You don't go private health insurance, you pay a higher levy on Medicare. So if you pay a private health insurance and the Medicare levy is lesser, but it's still a burden, a financial burden. And the scary thing is, I've got private health insurance and I've got the extras and all that.
We never use
And when
it.
you go to the
Well,
doctors, you
even
still
when
have
you
to
do use
outlay
it,
a
there's still a
fortune.
shortfall.
That's right.
Not a little bit, a lot.
A lot.
Yeah, a
I
lot.
mean, I spent 4 days in hospital for appendicitis, and the amount of shortfalls, even though I've had the top cover and all that, it's just huge.
Yeah,
so
it is.
It's unbelievable.
So where does this stop? Where do these constant increases stop?
Well, my
Well,
suggestion is we move to.
you need more earners.
Well,
Because at the end of the day, they keep slugging the same people.
Well,
You
maybe
get
we
some of those
need to look at different
corporations to
systems.
start
We
paying
need to
some
look
tax.
maybe we need to look at different countries. Like Cuba has a free medical system, and it's apparently one of the best in the world.
I think the joke's on us, to be perfectly
Yeah, I think
honest.
so. Anyway, bushfire trauma emerges in teens 7 years on. Now, Viv, what's the go here? Black Saturday 7 years ago, and people depressed and...
Well, there's been post-traumatic stress disorder coming out of these teenage children who were involved in the Black Saturday fires. So I'm just, it's awful that this is continuing on. What avenues, what recourse do they have in order to help supplement any of the, these medical requirements? Do they,
Well,
do
they can
have a
sue,
course?
Viv.
Who can they sue?
Well,
Well, there's all these class actions now against several different bodies, government bodies, and also private energy bodies about how these fires started. So just for the viewers, I mean, this was 2009. There was 173 people died in this fire.
Yeah, and
414
were
towns
injured.
were just wiped out. It's one
Yep.
of the worst wasn't natural in the end, but one of the worst disasters we've seen for a while in the state of Victoria. Anyway.
Yeah,
Well, Don, sorry, Viv.
that's all right.
At Nwiki Carbone, you've got the insurance department, you're in the TAC department, but a lot of these people that are coming out with post-traumatic stress now can sue.
Well, correct. It's
You
an
know,
injury.
Date of discoverability. So it's very technical and complicated.
Yeah.
It's important they get advice.
Correct. And they're minors too, so different time limits apply. But so these injuries are psychological. They are injuries, so they're entitled to recourse. Of course, there's all these other class actions going, so they should definitely seek legal advice.
On 1-300 injured.
Correct.
Yes. Viv, what else do you want to say about this?
I just wanted to say, look, some of these children are self-harming. So I think if you've got teenagers or if you know of someone who's acting out of the ordinary, then please certainly alert an adult and get them to get legal advice and also medical advice at the same time.
I couldn't agree more. Mm-hmm. Now, this one here, for someone that's got children, would be absolutely alarmed because the young child that was in the care of the babysitter, and experts have said that there's no way those injuries could have been got by accident, that they were deliberately, and she gets off.
Yeah, so a couple of a 10-month-old baby, I believe she was 10 months old in December 2010, went out for dinner. They left their child in the care of a babysitter from 8 till 11 o'clock. When they returned, the baby was non-responsive. They rushed the child to the hospital and she unfortunately later died with severe brain injury and had sustained injuries that were deemed non-accidental. This happens, parents go out all of the time, leave their children in the care of babysitters. The thing that's most alarming of this case is that even though these injuries were deemed non-accidental, this woman doesn't have to give evidence. The babysitter doesn't have to give evidence.
Adage,
How does that
Dom.
work?
You don't. The law doesn't require you to give evidence because you may self-incriminate.
Correct. Well,
Correct?
she was tried criminally, and she was acquitted.
Yes.
And now it's a coronial inquest into the
Because
death.
it's beyond reasonable doubt.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the coronial inquest is looking at the cause of death, and there's a lot more evidence that was introduced in coronial inquest than what was allowed in the
Yeah,
criminal
but
trial.
double jeopardy's gone, so if they brought up fresh evidence, they could bring
Yeah.
charges later.
Yeah, in fact, there's I think 8 or 9 doctors who all say that the death of Chloe was due to an assault, shaking.
Yep.
Whereas I'm not sure, couldn't really gauge whether or not that was raised in the criminal trial, what
But
doctors they
it's
used.
beyond
But
reasonable doubt, Don. There's always going to be
High
maybe a
doubt.
bit of doubt, isn't
Yeah.
there, Viv?
But
No,
there was
yes,
nobody
no.
else. How else could this child have sustained these injuries? And
What if she dropped the child? She didn't say that, but she could have. Yeah.
So look, it's
I don't,
tragic.
no, look,
because-
I'm sort of on your side, but I'm just there's
no,
a
but
possibility.
and I think
Yeah,
the whole
yeah.
point, the whole reason why, of course, this is an alarming case, but it really calls to question our justice system because nobody but the parents are suffering as a consequence of these
We'll have
actions.
to go back to the Magna Carta. What year was that, Don? 1234? To change the laws in relation to criminal law.
Yeah, innocent until proven guilty. So, look, I agree. Look, this is just very tragic, and the system has failed not only the parents but also Chloe as
It's
well.
a very sad case, viewers.
So what do you think the likely outcome of this is? I mean, it's now in the media again. This happened in 2010.
Nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's going to happen.
Nothing's going to
Well,
happen.
the coroner will hand down their findings about the cause of death, and it'll be interesting to see what that is, and then see if the police, if there's any new evidence they could charge. So look, maybe we'll have to come back to it once the coronial inquest is finished.
On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of the
What
show.
else?
Viv, thanks for coming on board.
It's always a pleasure.
Thanks for coming on board.
Before we go, I just want to say happy birthday to my daughter who turned 7.
And happy birthday to my husband, Christian, who turned 21 again.
Happy birthday to everyone that's having a birthday today. How's that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Viewers, thanks for watching the show. Stay tuned for future episodes. Go to our past episodes on YouTube. Go to our social media platforms, and always remember to stay safe.